2 weeks ago, the Bishop of Chelmsford, our new Bishop of Chelmsford, called together 1,000 people from the length and the breadth of the diocese. For those who don't know, the diocese consists of the county of Essex plus several boroughs of East London. He wanted to talk about strategic priorities for the diocese for the next 15 years. Annie and I both went along with Vivica, who is secretary to our church council here, and we were lucky to be there because most parishes only had 2 representatives. This morning I want to share with you some of what we talked about and how that might affect our lives as individuals and as a community in the future. Bishop Stephen has been in place for a year and a couple of months now, and in that time he has visited every deanery in the diocese, listened to church members in a wide range of parishes, and tried to get the feel of what's going on in this part of God's church. He has been encouraged by good work going on in many places, with lives transformed and many churches growing. He's also aware of the many problems and challenges that the church faces in the 21st century. And now he wanted to gather representatives from the whole diocese to talk about what will happen next. We were called to the sports hall of a leisure centre in Brentwood, where 100 banqueting tables have been laid out. No banquet, I'm afraid, but imagine 100 big round tables and 10 people sat round each. We sat where we were told to sit so that we were a carefully organised mix of clergy and lay people, male and female, and from different parts of the diocese, urban and rural. We began and ended the day with worship and with words from Bishop Stephen. And we were given 2 documents to read beforehand, a fine glossy one called Transforming Presence, and a more official looking one, just duplicated, Developing a New Ministry Strategy for the Parish and Deaneries in the Diocese of Chelmsford. The front cover of this one has a picture of a potter working on a pot on his wheel. And the reference is to Isaiah chapter 64, verse 8, where the prophet speaking says, "We are the clay and you are the potter." We are like the clay in the hands of God to do with what he wants. We were given questions to discuss at our tables. We were expected to write answers on sheets of paper, which then got stuck on the wall so we could go and compare what other people had said. And we were promised that those answers would be processed in the next few days and summarised on a special website. And that work has been done, and the address of the website is on the back of our notice sheet, the third notice, www.transformingpresence.org.uk, where you can also see a video clip of the Bishop speaking about his hopes for the event beforehand and his response to the event afterwards. If you're not on the internet, I'm sure it's covered in the latest edition of The Month, the diocesan newspaper. Within this glossy brochure, there were 4 sections which covered 4 themes on which the Bishop wanted us to focus. The first one is inhabiting the world distinctively. I think that's just a fancy way of saying living holy lives, wanting to tell us that the way we live should be different from the way that our neighbours live. Because we have a faith and a trust in God, we live differently. It affects the way we think, the things that we say and do, how we spend our money, how we treat the people around us. It's a difference which springs from our faith and from our life of prayer, a difference which should drive us to pray more. The second heading is evangelizing effectively, which means sharing the good news of God's love with the people around us. In our gospel reading today, we heard Jesus telling his disciples that they would fish for people. They would go out and bring more people in. And in our epistle reading, Paul said, "Woe betide me if I do not proclaim the gospel." We have good news to share, good news of the love of God, and we should not be inhibited in doing that. We should not be shy of inviting others to join our church, and we should make it easy for them when they come in to do so. Section 3 is headed Serving with Accountability. And Bishop Stephen is saying that all the parishes within his diocese should pull together as we serve God, and that we should be accountable to one another in the ways in which we use our resources, our buildings, and our time. It says in the document that every parish will be asked 7 challenging questions. Questions about our life of prayer, questions about how we teach the Christian faith, questions about sharing the faith with others outside, questions about how we call people to use their gifts in God's service, both as lay members of the church and in the ordained ministry. Questions about how we serve the wider community. A former Archbishop of Canterbury said, "The church is the only organisation that exists for the benefit of its non-members." What are we doing for the wider community? Questions about the welcome and the security that we offer to all kinds of people coming through our doors. And questions about our partnership with other Christians, both locally and globally. At present, every year your church wardens receive a visit from the area dean on behalf of the archdeacon when all the church finances and registers are checked and questions are asked mainly about the church buildings and the furniture. But it looks as though in future, when the area dean comes to visit, the wardens will also be asked those 7 questions about the spiritual life and work of the church. Our curate Annie and I have been talking about the possibility of a series of sermons on those 7 questions later in the year. And then the 4th section of the glossy document is about reimagining ministry. And I think the white document inside it is really an expansion of that. There is a shortage of ordained clergy in the Church of England, which is set to get more noticeable over the next 10 years, as many serving clergy will be retiring in that time. The problem is not so much a problem of finance, but one of vocations. There are not as many bright young curates coming out of the colleges as there used to be. But it does mean that as clergy move on or retire, they will not automatically be replaced. And that will affect neighbouring parishes as well, as we try to cover the work that needs to be done. Every cluster of 2 or 3 parishes in our deanery is likely to lose a post or half a post over the next 10 years. But the bishop wants us to plan over a much longer time span to what a self-sustaining, ongoing ministry will look like. At the level of the diocese, it will mean fewer diocesan advisors on specialist subjects, but a few more archdeacons supporting parish clergy in their ministry and mission. More support so that the parish clergy can do their work more effectively. And at the parish level, it means giving capable lay people more opportunities to use their gifts, especially in leading groups and in leading congregations. Bishop Stephen is clear that he's not interested in closing churches. He says that in this diocese there are not too many churches, but too few. I think when he first arrived, people said to him, we need to close some of these buildings that we've got. But he says, no, let's make better use of those buildings, maybe with more congregations meeting within them, congregations that will meet at different times or using different styles from the ones that are there at the moment, so that there are more people to support the use of those buildings. And that's something that we've already been talking about here at St Mary's. We will be hearing more about Bishop Stephen's initiatives over the coming year. But the overall impression I had from that day of consultation was that people from all over the diocese are responding in a very positive way to what our new bishop wants to see happening in his church in Essex and East London. He wants to see us revived, much in the way as Isaiah speaks at the end of the reading we had this morning. Those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint.